Hello and welcome to this video. I'm Jack from Dicebox or Dicebox Hobby, and today I'm going to show you how to install the UV sensor for resin time-lapse videos by Mintion. I'm going to be installing it into Creality's Halot-One-Plus 4K resin printer. Now, first thing I did was open up the box and unboxed everything to see what I got, and inside there is a little quick set guide, the power lead, the USB lead and the adapter, in this case here for a UK plug, the black sensor, a little bit of velcro to adhese it, to stick it to the printer, and a strip of 5 tapes just to help again secure the sensor inside the printer. Now, before I opened anything up, what I'd done was plug in the sensor to the wall adapter and turn it on, and made sure I got a solid blue illuminating light to show that the sensor is powering up and behaving normally. So once I've done that, I went ahead and got my Halot-One-Plus and put it in front. I removed the vat and the build plate, just for ease, because I'm moving it about on the side. Didn't want any, and no matter how much you sort of clean it, there's still that tiny bit of resin that sort of sits between the FEP and the tray. So I figured it's just best, rather than get anywhere, just to remove them and pop them to one side. Now, before I done this video, I had a quick look to see where's best to mount the sensor, and it's going to be best to go in from the right hand side of the Halot-One-Plus, and to get the right hand side plate off, it's just 4 screws, 4 Allen key screws, 2 on the bottom, and 2 on the top as well. They're not like crazy tight, so nice and easy to undo. But when you take them out, they are different lengths. The silver ones are a bit longer than the black ones, the silver ones being from the top. So just make sure you pop them to one side and either note them up, just so you don't put the wrong ones back in when we reassemble. Trick I have found, if you're not doing this in one sitting, is just to get a bit of clear sticky tape and a piece of paper. Tape the screws to the bit of paper just with a pen, jot down where they're from. That way they're not going to be rolling away or anything like that, and when you come back you haven't got to remember where you got them from. So once those 4 screws are out, the right hand panel has some catches, but they're nice and easy to sort of pry off. Just do it a little bit slowly, sorry, as along the bottom there are a few catches, and we don't really want to snap them off. And what I did notice as I was opening this up as well is that it's actually got a little R for right hand side marked on the inside, so if you ever take your printer fully apart, that's a nice way to get them, or get it back together how it wears. Here you can see is what we're greeted with when we look inside through the right hand side. You can see the main motherboard, the ribbon cable for the light source comes out at the bottom right there. We have the exhaust fan as well, and which we're going to have to remove in a minute. And you can see it's actually quite busy inside. So it took me a while to figure out the best way to place this sensor. Now, with the installation video that Mintion show of them installing the sensor, it is nice and easy on other brand of printers, because the light source that's there is like a a grid of LEDs, and you can just literally take the sensor to the side, not overlapping it, of course, because if you overlap it then you'll have the potential to block the UV to get to the screen and the build plate, so you can end up with dead zones. But because Creality have an integral light source, so they beam the UV onto almost like a reflective panel to diffuse it upwards to get a more even spread. We don't have that. So what I did, and what you can do as well, is power up your printer. Just be careful not to touch any of the electronics or anything whilst your side is off. And if you put a bit of clear paper over the screen and then do the screen or the vac cleaning process to illuminate the screen, what you can do, or what will happen, is you'll actually see inside where UV light almost bleeds from the case where it's being fired onto the reflective panel, and this is where I found the best spot to mount the little sensor, and it happens to be behind that little exhaust fan. So what I did is I took that, turned the printer back off again, unplugged it, made sure it was safe. I then unscrewed the exhaust fan, being careful of the small cables that supply it, and I was able to put it, almost sort of rest it to one side to see through the machine to see where this little light bleed was going to be coming from. So once I moved that to one side, you can see at the back where there's like those cooling fins. That's where the light source is, and it gets beamed through the bit of aluminium boxing, as it were. So what I done is I ran another cleaning process to see where, again, if I could see any better places, and just where that aluminium boxing meets the big aluminium square with the cooling fins, there's actually a little opening, which obviously it's formed from one piece, but they have to leave a bit of the corner out as they fold it up, which is lucky for us, because that's perfect. So what I'll be doing is mounting the sensor almost sort of like a 45-degree angle from the top corner where those cooling fins are, pointing down towards that little open hole. And what I did to and then sort of, now we sort of know roughly where I was going to put it. What I did do is we need to get the cable internally to externally to mount the sensor on the outside. And again, on the Mintions video, they show you pushing the cable through one of the fan grills, because luckily on the other brand printers they're nice and big, so the cable just feeds through nice and easily. But we're not so lucky with the Creality Halot-One-Plus. So what I've done on the panel we removed, it's just plastic. So I took a 6.5mm drill bit, which is wider than the sensor's head, and just roughly sort of worked out where I wanted the cable to sit. So I wanted it to come over the top of the fan, because obviously the fan is going to sit in front of where we want to mount the sensor. And then I just sort of, I didn't even use a power drill, I just held the bit in my hand and slowly twisted to give me a nice little clean hole. And once I've done that, I passed the sensor through, and we've got a lot of slack on the sensor cable, so I pulled it all the way through for now, and I still had plenty of room. It wasn't going to get in the way whilst I mounted the sensor. So I got one of the bits of sticky tape that came with the kit, one of the 5 strips, and I taped in the sensor at a 45-degree angle, pointing towards that hole. Now I did initially have it but right up against that hole, thinking, oh brilliant, we've got the light bleed, that's going to trigger every time. But when I had it there and done another light test to see if the sensor was working, it didn't activate. So what I ended up doing was pulling it back, so it was probably about 5mm away from touching the that little opening on the boxing, and taping it there. And then once I'd done that, I ran the vat cleaning to fire up the UV light. If you don't know how to do that, it's quite simple. You go into the settings, hit the cleaning button, and then it comes up with a warning notice saying please confirm whether you need to clean the trough, and you hit OK, and it will have a 20-second countdown timer where the light will illuminate. And what you want to do whilst that UV or your screen is lit, just check the blue LED on the Mintion sensor, and it will flash rapidly 3 times in blue again, and that's indicating that it's triggered. So what I done is I then sort of cancelled the screen cleaning, done it again and checked the light, and it flashed again, and turned the light off. And I've done that 5 times to make sure it was triggering every time. And when I was happy with that, what I then done, just to make it a little bit more secure, I decided to get my hot glue gun and just put a bit of hot glue around the tape and around the cable to the UV sensor, just to hold it in place a bit more securely. Once the glue was set, I then put the mounted the fan back in as well, and then I put a little bit more hot glue on the top of the fan, just again holding the cable, just so there's no play and there was no give for the sensor to move. Not that we're going to be moving a 3D print around whilst it's printing or anything, but you might as well, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it once and do it right. So once that was back in place and the fan was back in place, paranoia got me again, so I thought, well, we're just going to test it one more time, because again we've changed it, we've put the fan back in. So I'd done another light test, and again got my three flashes of the LED on the sensor, so I was happy. So what I done is I slowly pulled the right hand side of the casing back up to the printer and clipped it in, and put those 4 screws back to secure the side. So the 2 long silver ones in the top, and then the 2 short black ones back in the bottom. I then got the little bit of Velcro that comes with the kit as well, and stuck it on the UV sensor, and figured out where was best to mount it. And due to how the cable was sort of coming out and bending round, I mounted it on the back. It's also worked out quite well because the power supply is on the back, so the sensor supply coming into the back is quite fitting as well. Keeps it all nice and tidy, and there's nothing on the side, so if you have a few printers side by side, it's you're not going to have to worry about ever reaching the side or anything like that. Or if you're tight for space, just having it on the back, it's going to be, well, it's not going to get interfered or played with, because the IEC lead that supplies it sticks out further than the sensor anyway, so that's a good place to have it, and you're not blocking any fan vents or anything like that either. So once that was in, that's basically the installation of the light sensor complete. Now I would run through sort of setting up your first time lapse, but it's very simple, and Mintion themselves have a good, if you follow their installation video and sort of skip the installation part, they actually go through quite well the setting up of the sensor through the Mintion app and the Beagle camera app. It's very plug and play. I mean, this is the hard bit. We've done it, we've got it over and done with. But in short, all you need to do is power up your printer, power up your sensor and power up your Beagle camera. Open up the Beagle app. Before you connect your sensor to your camera, just go to the settings, update all the firmware, but also make sure your Bluetooth settings in the app or the Bluetooth firmware is also up to date. And then once that's done, you can then add the device. So you click add device, you push and hold the UV sensor button, I think for about 5 seconds, and then it will the LED will slowly flash 3 times. That'll automatically connect itself as well. And then when you go back to the camera, almost like home screen, in the list of little things, then you'll see UV sensor, and that will say on. You know it's connected up. Before you start a time lapse as well, in the time lapse settings, you need to change it so it says UV time lapse or UV resin time lapse or something like that. But again, they show you in the Mintion installation video, and then once that's done, literally just slice your file like normal, load it onto your Resin Printer or your Halot-One-Plus in this case, hit print, and it automatically does its thing, which is the beauty of these things. Both the Beagle camera and the UV sensor. Okay, the UV sensor is a bit of a pain to install, but once it's in, it's so plug and play, or so intuitive. You haven't got to do anything else really, and yeah, have fun making some awesome time-lapse videos. I hope you found this quite useful. If you've got any questions, just feel free to reach out to me, and I'll do my best to answer them. Thank you very much. I'll see you on the next one.